Hello, everyone. My name is Good morning. We're still morning. My name is Rosemary Ravinal, and I am visiting for the first time to Porto from Miami, Florida. And it's a delight to be among international leaders, thinkers, creators, and I look forward to our conversations over lunch. But first, I have a favor to ask you. I am going to be sharing my presentation with you, but with the intention of you giving me your feedback, because this is a very important topic for me as a communication leader and as I think, a person of conscience. And this is going to be a TED Talk in the spring of next year. And so you're the first audience to hear it. But these are going to be excerpts from it because it's a bit too long for the time that I was allotted today. So I'm going to give you the best chunks of this. But I expect you to tell me afterwards, or we can do an interactive session so that I can learn from you, because this is probably one of the best audiences that I could find in order to bring my material to life. So with that, let me say that people are angry, right? People are angry. I know I was angry this morning just catching up with my news feed from back home. I live in the United States. But the anger is spreading all throughout the world. But the anger that I'm talking about, that rage, that sense of wanting to lash out on social media, to make your opinions heard, that's one level. There's also anger as simple as a zipper that broke, or a nasty conversation with someone on the street, or lack of politeness, lack of courtesy that someone did not extend to you, a feeling of being rendered less powerful, less relevant, not being heard, right? And those things happen on a daily basis. Some people have an innate ability to deal with them, but others use it as the fodder, as the fuel to lash out to the world. And that, if you multiply that, it has an ability to be contagious, right? Because an angry person will infect so many others around you. It's an energy field that expands and expands with no limit. And we have to find a way within ourselves to be the agent of that change, of being able to temper those emotions and model the kind of behavior that we want to see, that will be a factor the butterfly effect can really impact the whole world if it starts with us. Many of you have spoken about the power of the self-awareness and setting the example and being a leader for yourself, and that leadership that starts with you, has a repercussion in everything around you. And so with that same is the same concept that I want to develop. But my goal today is to give you something you can take away, and that is an anger response plan. An anger response plan, something that you can implement in any situation, that just gives you the sense of centeredness, of poise, of grounding, that will allow you to be that model in the world. I am not a therapist, but what I enjoy about my work is that I've taken many years as a senior leader in corporate communications, public relations, for companies you've heard of, like Ericsson, for example, Discovery Channel, History Channel. I've been a broadcaster. I've been on network television. I've done spokesperson work for many, many companies. And what I've always lacked was the sense of spirituality and mindfulness in communication. So my work coaching leaders, civic leaders, entrepreneurs, is to bring the element of the heart-centered communication into the way they communicate to their teams, to their families, to the world. And the idea of having that spirit-centered grounding is based on the fact that we are but just one factor. One person, as the Dalai Lama says, be the face that you want to see in the world. Be that one face. Viktor Frankl, the neurologist, psychiatrist, Holocaust survivor, he has this wonderful quote that I'm hoping I can remember by heart. And it goes that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is the power the power to choose your response. And in your response lies our growth and freedom. And I so firmly believe that, in that middle space, which in some cultures, there's a tendency to be black and white, to either you're binary, you win or you lose. And there's really nothing in the middle. But there is a middle way. And the idea of the fool's choice, if you're only looking at winning and losing, so much of the world is turning out that way, right? If you're with me or not, you're against me, you're my enemy, you're my friend, right? But there is a middle way, and that middle way has to do with the way we respond to the stimuli. So how angry is the world? If we're talking about anger as one of those emotions that triggers us into our dark spaces, into the shadow. How angry are we? Well, I always like to use grounded data points. However, there isn't that much research, unless someone here can point me in the direction of finding some solid research on how the anger meter. There's lots of information about happiness, the measure of happiness in societies. But anger is not necessarily captured, except Gallup. Gallup did do a global emotions report. You familiar with it, Angela? Okay, so they said that this was in 2024. And the world has changed so much since 2024. I'm sure the numbers that they reported are significantly higher today. So it's interesting that there's been a radical change in people's tolerance to stimuli. They're more angrier, just across the board. This was done in 28 countries. There was another survey by Edelman Global Survey that also revealed widespread discontent in about 25 countries. But curiously enough, in Portugal, where we are today, the measure of anger was only 8%. 8%. In the United States, it's 24. And in Spain, it's 22. So interesting that Portugal has this very, very low sense of people weren't asked, how angry were you yesterday? The response was then measured as only 8% factor in their anger meter. So people are angry. So unquestionably, all of the world's events, from social injustice to climate change to economic instability, all of these things are going to be growing and growing in our society. So how do we deal with this, and how are the tools that I'm going to share you something you can act on right away? So I have a personal story that I'd like to share about living in anger, living in a home where you had to walk on eggshells, where you had my grandmother and my father were constantly at war. And from my earliest memory, I remember always a phrase that my mother used to say, disimula, dissimulate, which means just pretend you didn't see it, pretend you didn't hear it. Don't say anything, don't react, just pretend nothing happened. Just pretend, don't react. What happens when you don't react, when there's no outlet, when there's no mechanism for dealing with that anger, it starts to become organically part of you. There's no place for it to go. It's like a boiling teapot, right? The steam has to go somewhere. And so that carried into my life, and it developed into a form of depression. And I didn't realize that was the genesis of depression until I started going to psychiatrists and psychologists and therapists who actually helped me understand that repressed anger, that inability to have an emotional response to your surroundings, will then accumulate and then, of course, carry over into your adult life. So let me give you some ways that you can deal with anger. I have two ways. One is what I call the magic pause. The magic pause, and it's something extremely simple that you can do anywhere. And it's basically creating a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 space between what angers you, what triggers you, and how you react. The amygdala is this tiny piece in the brain where that trigger, the fight or flight response, activates. Boom, in a flash of a second. But it takes up to 20 minutes for us to calm down. So imagine how quickly we're triggered and how long it takes to respond, to go back to our baseline, right? To have a sense of comfort and just patience, return to normal. So many people never learn how to deal with that. So the magic pause. So you can do the magic pause in a couple of ways. You can do the countdown, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or you can simply take a breath, do breath work, do different types of breath work, do box breathing, do the 4 by 4 by 4, right? 4 in breaths, hold, exhale for 4, another inhale for 4, and so you repeat that for about 90 seconds. So that's the magic pause. And it really helps you go from that sense of violence to silence, from violence to silence. The other technique that I want to share with you comes from speech coach and TED speaker Julian Treasure. He comes from Australia, and he's been a mentor to me. He has something called rasa, R-A-S-A, R-A-S-A, not rasa with a Z. Rasa. It's a Sanskrit word that means essence. Are you familiar with it, sir? You're nodding. Yes. Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. This is why this is so lovely that I'm getting your feedback. You understand the word. So rasa in Sanskrit means essence. So what he's done is he's taken that and developed an acronym for something that I find extremely powerful. The R means to receive. This is a method for what I call listening loudly. Listening loudly. When you listen loudly, you're listening with extraordinary attention. Because one of the things that is enormously powerful is giving someone attention. It's the deepest expression of love is when you give someone attention. Right? We know that with dogs, we know that with children, we know that with every living thing, plants. All the natural world responds to attention. So the R is receive the message that you're giving me. Appreciate by, as you're doing now, nodding, smiling, letting me know that you're receiving. The S is to summarize. So if we were having a conversation, you might say to me, so, Rosemary, you're saying that it can be as simple as listening loudly. You're paraphrasing back to me. Then the A, the last A, is to ask. Ask a question that deepens the understanding. So you might want to ask me, give me an example, Rosemary, of how you would implement that formula of RASA. You can have that not only as a measure of diffusing tension and anger, but you can also use it in regular, normal conversation as a way of listening loudly so you can build stronger teams, so you can stifle dissent before it escalates. You can use it as a extraordinary way of, even in networking situations where we can practice during lunchtime, deepening our understanding of the other person's worldview, purpose, right? Mission, passions, and dreams, and how we can help each other achieve those. So in summary, we can be the models for how we want to bring down the temperature. Just bring it down a few notches, and we can do that in the simplest of ways. Know that anger is deeply seated. Did you know, for example, that someone as grotesquely inhumane as Adolf Hitler, that it has been studied that the genesis, the whole foundation of his actions came from having a deprived childhood, of having been abused, having lived in poverty, having been demeaned, having been ridiculed in school. And so this piece of him festered in such a way that when given an opportunity to lash back at the world, he did that in extraordinary fashion. So it starts small. It starts with us. It starts with our daily actions. It starts with our awareness and consciousness of mindful communication, that everything we do has consequences. We can be the agent to bring that change about. We can choose to respond with anger. We can find that middle way between violence and silence, and really be the agents of as Dalai Lama said, be the change that you want to see in the world. Or did Gandhi say that? It doesn't matter. It's the same. It's a wonderful thing to close this talk with. I thank you for your attention. I look forward to your feedback. My name is Rosemary Ravinal in Miami, Florida, and if you're ever in that part of the world, I'd love for you to pay me a visit. Thank you. Okay?